Looks like we're live, Josh.
Okay, straighten up. Get your act together.
I'm all shifty and ready to go.
I like it. I love the title, and the title that you put for this episode is so mysterious. So let's start, and I can certainly, as we were chatting earlier, identify and relate. So let's start at the front, man. What's the problem?
Yeah.
What's the issue? What's the fog?
The fog is so mysterious in itself, isn't it? It's a great metaphor. Well, look, I was teaching the scale paradox last week to about 100 people in my town and entrepreneurs, and where we started in this whole thing is, in fact, our last conversation, Josh, was about like the scale paradox and how do we grow our businesses. And I said we would go into like the actual framework, but before I do that, in this call, I want to draw out the problem because it's a real problem. So here's the deal. I had a screenshot. I'm not actually going to show that, but the fog is what I call it. There are 5 pieces that make up the fog, and there are a massive amount of inefficiencies that we take on as entrepreneurs when we build our business in the fog. And my thesis, or my point in this conversation, is that I would say 90% of us are building our businesses in the fog. So let me just walk you through the 5 pieces of the fog, and we'll go from there. And you can follow up with questions or whatever.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, look, so the first piece of the fog is when you just realize how we're wired as entrepreneurs is that we have an insatiable desire to grow, to fulfill our vision. We have vision. We have things we want to take on and accomplish, and we have a massive, insatiable desire to do that. That's where this all starts. Now, from there, we move into the second piece of the cycle, which is that we go out and we seek advice. So in this insatiable desire, we're like, I'm going to grow. I'm going to figure out how to do this. So I go read a book. I go to a class. I listen to a podcast. I watch a video like this, whatever, and I go out and I get advice. From that advice, I come back to my business now with a working assumption of what I think I need to do to be successful in my business. Okay? So we got a desire leads to seeking advice, leads to working assumptions. Okay? Those are 3 out of 5. The fourth piece then is from those working assumptions, we now go get into action because we're entrepreneurs that take action. So off we go to get into action, and that's the fourth, action. And the fifth piece then is that our action interfaces with the consumer. Okay, and then we go back and we interface with the consumer and desire to do more. We get back to our insatiable desire to grow even more, and so then we go seek even more advice, and we come back with more working assumptions, and the cycle goes on. Here's why this is a fog. At first glance, that sounds great, but here's the problem. In our insatiable desire to grow, we go out and get advice, but the advice, I say, is incomplete. It's not the whole picture. It's not necessarily that book you just read isn't necessarily wrong. It's just incomplete. But we don't see it that way. When we read it, we're like, oh yeah, that social media book, it said do 4 personal Facebook posts to 1 professional Facebook post. So that's my new strategy. That's my new daily action. Or it said, hey, I need to create an email campaign for 500 people, and it needs to be in this program and this. So or I need to go out and eat that frog, which is, one of those things like get out of my comfort zone, and that's what I'm supposed to do. And so this is the incomplete advice that we get when we bring back. Now, it's not wrong. It's just not the whole picture, okay? But we don't treat it that way. We treat it like it is the whole picture. So we come back with this incomplete advice, and in that we start to have incomplete working assumptions. So the assumptions we made of like, oh, well, what I need to do is make 20 phone calls a day. That's what I need to do. It's just a numbers game. That assumption is incomplete. But with that incomplete assumption, we now go out into the world with action from this incomplete assumption. So off we go into the world, and what I would say is we are doing incongruent action. We're taking actions that don't feel like us, don't look like us, don't sound like us to the people that know us. Or if we're going out to people that don't know us, it's even weirder. People are like, what? I can't even relate to you. So we have these incongruent actions as we go out from these incomplete assumptions, from our incomplete advice, and then we interface with the consumer that way. This is the fog that most entrepreneurs build their business in, and it doesn't scale, and it's inefficient. And that's the problem.
And it just confuses the consumers, and then it frustrates the passionate entrepreneur, which to me just sounds like inevitable burnout.
Yeah, dude, seriously, I as I read my books as an early entrepreneur, I read the E-Myth, and I think in that book they talk about how like 80% of small businesses fail in the first 2 years. I actually went to the Small Business Administration site, and there's some data refuting that stat, but they're painting it off like a rosy picture, and it was actually like 50% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. So like, yeehaw, like congratulations, you made it 5 years and then it failed. Like 1 out of 2 people. It's for this reason, I believe, that because we're not being congruent and we don't feel strong the way we're building because we're doing it the way we think the guru that taught us or wrote a book about it said to do it.
Got it. So the best thing that we have is our starting point, which is that insatiable desire to grow and do something.
Yes.
Then we got to get the next step right.
That's right. That is it, man. That is the asset in this whole thing, is our insatiable desire. That is beautiful. I love that. It fuels us where everybody else stops. We keep going because we have that insatiable desire. But when we take that and build it on a foundation that is incomplete and not the whole picture and incongruent, then first of all, it doesn't scale. Second of all, it's hard. And third, when you go out and interface with the consumer, every other trainer that's read the same books and been to the same seminars and watched the same YouTube gurus, look, the same thing is like everybody says the same thing to their clients. So you all, as trainers, look the same to the consumer. And so as a result, they don't see any reason why they need to pay you more when they could go to the gym for $35 a month and get a trainer for free as a part of their membership. When you can start to figure out like who you are, which is where we'll go in our next conversation, the whole way you start to build in the scale framework is building from you and what makes you uniquely different than everybody else. And there are 3 specific places I'm going to look at with you in how to build from there, how to build from you, that nobody can duplicate or copy.
Got it. And then that just builds upon that insatiable desire, and it begins to fuel it, energize you, and you get better at what you do.
Yep. That's what we're going to do. We're going to harness that insatiable desire in a way that actually scales, rather than what most of us do, where we have our insatiable desire and then we hit our head against the wall with sheer stubbornness and determination to make our goals. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be a lot easier.
Yeah. Gosh, I love it, man. Okay, perfect. So what are we asking the viewers to see? Because here's the thing. Everybody's watching other people's YouTube videos, and they all think that they've found the secret, but little do they know they're all doing the same thing. So you're saying we're going to take an inward approach, and it's different for each person. That's cool.
What's different is here's what's different. What I tell people about this, my scale framework, is look, it is not a model, it's not a system, it's not a recipe for success. This is not like, hey, here's what I did to grow my business, now you can do the same thing, because what I do to grow my business works for me, where I feel strong, may not work for you because you are wired different than me, and this is what we miss. So where my scale framework will pick up is showing you where to look. It's not a model as in like do this, then do that, then do this. It is a place to look and a way to see things. Once you see things right, then you know how to build.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. The biggest problem I think for most entrepreneurs is it's a perspective problem. It's not a talent issue. It's not a desire issue. It's not a motivation issue. It is a perspective issue. That's our breakdown.
Gotcha. I love it. Okay, hey, if you guys want to see more information about all the different types of stuff Chris is talking about, look at some of our past YouTube videos, and then I'm excited about what's to come, Chris. So what are the next videos we're going to be covering?
Yeah, so from here, our next conversation, we'll dive into you, which is the heart and soul of your business. It should be, and for most people, it's not. So we're going to infuse who you are and your exact fingerprint into your business. And then from there, we'll start to look at, okay, now how do you go out and find the right group of people? How do you niche down in order to scale up? That's the paradox. Okay, and from finding the right group of people that you want to connect with, we're going to then start to look at some brand strategy. What makes up an effective brand? How does your brand stand above the rest? And we're going to look at some key elements that make up a brand. The conversation after that then is going to start to look at how do we leverage ourselves? How do we get more results with less effort? There's some key things that we can leverage that will give us a bigger return on our efforts. And if you don't look for them or don't know what they are, you're going to use a lot of hours and a lot of effort to try to grow your business when you don't have to.
Got it. Okay, cool. So for everybody watching this, if you can identify what Chris is talking about and you feel like you you do follow all the secrets and all the books and all the gurus, and then at the end of the day, you're just beating your head against the wall, and you feel like you're not making any true connections with people, post below, make a comment, let us know if this is relating with you, and then also if you have any questions or topics you want us to expand upon. So excellent, Chris. I look forward to next time, man. You're crushing it. Great job.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for being with me. See
You
ya.
bet.
See you next
Bye.
time.